Okay, good morning everyone. Thank you to everyone who's joined us today. My name's Andy. I'm Head of Startup Support at the University of Essex. I hope that during these times we find you safe, well and healthy, and that extends to your friends and family. Today's session is being led by Dan Spicer from Ventura Digital. What we have recognised over the past few weeks is that naturally there are a series of challenges facing businesses during this time, and we've ran a series of webinars designed to try and give you access to experts in key areas where hopefully the types of information and advice that they share with you can be implemented and applied to your business. So I'm delighted to have Dan here this morning to share his thoughts on your communications and your marketing during this time. I can only say from a PC perspective, I'm not sure about Apple products, but we do have a Q&A function, which you'll find at the bottom of your screen. I think on Apple products, if you swipe from the left, is where you'll find it. Dan's going to run through his presentation, and through the Q&A function, what you can do is you can put some questions in there. Myself and Egla, my colleague, will be looking at the questions being asked. And then when Dan has finished his presentation, we'll go through those and we'll put those questions to him. So if you've got anything that you'd like to ask during the course of the next hour, put those into the Q&A function, and we'll pick those up, and then we'll put those questions to Dan at the end. So without further ado, I'm going to hand you over and say thank you very much, Dan, and good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for the introduction, and good morning everyone. Echo Andy's sentiments there with regards to hoping everyone is safe and well, and friends and family are safe and well, and you're slowly managing to adapt to this new normal that we find ourselves in with regards to the pandemic, how it's affected obviously our day-to-day, both a personal and professional perspective. And then from a professional perspective, hope you're obviously managing to move forward with regards to adapting to new ways of working, with remote working, managing teams, and ultimately moving your business forward. And it's clear that this coronavirus pandemic has ultimately put businesses and brands in a variety of pretty unique kind of, I suppose, crisis management situations, from dealing with panicked customers, dealing with product shortages, maybe having mandated kind of various service limitations that you can offer, all the way through to thinking about how you balance kind of consumer sensitivities and stay top of, but still stay top of mind with your customers. Ultimately, all of this thinking really to help you kind of keep your businesses kind of moving forward, and in some situations, depending on the industries that you work with, keep your business afloat. When we start thinking about the hospitality and travel type industries, which have obviously been kind of significantly affected. So ultimately, brands need to be planning for the future as the situation evolves. And today's talk for the next kind of 45 minutes or so, hopefully going to cover some of those key considerations. And ultimately, I think that it's fair to say that this global crisis will fundamentally change how we think, how we behave, and how we consume products and consume content online moving forward. And there's probably going to be no rapid return to normal. I think a lot's going to change over the next few months, potentially years. And in this moment, it's where kind of brands and businesses can prove that you can put people first, not profits first, and really respond with compassion and make a difference to both people's life, both from a kind of consumer and employee perspective. And I think we've all got a responsibility there as business owners or future business owners to think about how we respond in the most empathetic, compassionate way, while still driving our business forward, and ultimately potentially capitalizing on some of these opportunities. And there will be winners and losers within any kind of recession-esque type market. But actually, hopefully, that we're having this conversation, we can kind of all move forward together. So as an introduction, I'm Dan Spicer. I'm founder and strategy director at Ventura Digital. We're a performance marketing agency, so we support businesses in understanding how they can generate value from digital marketing channels, all the way through from content marketing, content production, all the way through to paid media, Google paid advertising, social advertising, through to data analytics and kind of understanding all the data that you have and how that can ultimately drive incremental change through your marketing activity. Previous to that, I was in a number of roles, both client and brand side. I spent 4 years with a company called Hootsuite, heading up their social and comms team. Prior to that, I was also with market research companies like Fresh Minds Innovations, understanding how to use social media data to inform decisions, and then prior to that, various digital marketing roles. In terms of the structure today, Andy had already mentioned it, but there's a Q&A section, so do feel free to use the Q&A function to ask questions, and we'll select a few to answer. I'm also happy to have one-to-one follow-up conversations after this call, so my contact details were on the first slide there. Feel free to link up with me on LinkedIn, and then we're going to send around the webinar, our recording after this, and my contact details will be there included in there as well, so feel free to reach out. I'm happy to have a one-to-one if you've got any additional questions following the kind of short hour that we've got today. And then also I'm going to be surfacing a bunch of different stats throughout the presentation. They are all sourced at the bottom of the slides, but when we send around the recordings, all of the links will be in the bottom of the slides as well. So you don't need to kind of frantically write down all the footnote information in each of the slides. So our agenda today is going to loosely split into these 3 sections. We're going to start off looking at how the landscape has changed, how it is changing, and some of those key considerations, what that means for marketing communications, both from a kind of comms and messaging perspective, all the way through to kind of what we're seeing from a I suppose a distribution and advertising perspective, some of the things that you can be thinking around from an advertising investment side of things, and then ultimately some of those key considerations for getting cut through. I also have ended the presentation with a short bit on remote working tech stack. I know a lot of businesses that aren't used to remote working and some of the tools and technologies that are available out there. There's obviously some ones that are front and center in the news at the moment, like Zoom, that we're all on today, but there's obviously a whole bunch underneath the tip of that iceberg, a whole bunch of tools that can help you kind of accelerate how you operate from a digital perspective. So I'm going to cover a little bit of that towards the end of the section. So to start off, we've given a bit of an overview of the landscape as a whole. I don't know if anyone's seen the Edelman Trust Barometer, but they release a report every single year around consumer trust in brands and some of the key things we should be thinking about. They've actually just released a special report around kind of brand trust and the coronavirus pandemic. And you'll see some of the key stats here. The key headlines really are that consumer behavior and consumer expectations in brands is rapidly changing and has changed just over the last couple of weeks. 1 in 3 consumers say that they've stopped using a brand who they thought weren't acting appropriately in response to the coronavirus. 65% of consumers, so 12,000 consumers were surveyed in this survey. 65% of them say how brands respond will have an impact on whether or not they buy that product. So their communication style, their messaging style will ultimately have an impact on whether they actually go ahead and buy and consume those products moving forward. And then actually 37% of consumers say that they've recently started using a new brand because of the way they've responded to the coronavirus pandemic, whether that's innovations in their product set, in their service set, or whether that's just how they've compassionately approached the pandemic that we're in. There's a lot of opportunity there to really build relationships with current and potential consumers with the way you act and react in the current situation. That's both from protecting the well-being of employees and really surfacing how you're looking after employees, all the way through to potentially shifting your product lines, shifting your pricing in response to to the current climate through to potentially just creating a sense of community. If you're a local bricks and mortar, or you serve a kind of smaller, more targeted local community, using your business to build that sense of community and help people move forward in the current climate can really help you obviously grow your business's awareness, but also start to build relationships with, if not current customers, future customers, when we do start to return to normal. So if you have any, continue stats from the barometer, if you do have any doubts or wherever in doubt with how much brands actually matter in today's climate, the data that Ellerman's surfaced has really revealed that they do matter and they play an important role in helping everyone move forward. So rather than actually selling a brand image or selling a brand idea, consumers are expecting brands to find solutions to how we can move forward in today's world. What I don't want to, that's I suppose the positive side of things. There are some obviously key considerations from I suppose the negative view on things around how we should be moving forward, and there is clearly an impact on consumer behaviour. So this is actually a Marketing Week survey that they ran week before last, that shows that majority of marketers, 36% of marketers that were surveyed, view or expect a drop in demand for their products and services. So ultimately there is an opportunity to build relationships, keep your brand front of mind, put your business in the best position to move forward, both currently and when we start to level out and flatten the curve, as they put it. But ultimately, we do need to understand the context and the backdrop that demand will drop, and potentially conversions and sales will drop to an extent, and we need to operationally be aware of that. But ultimately, there's still a marketing opportunity to continue to move forward. There are still winners and losers across industries. So this is a report, a data that was run out of a tool called Uber Suggest, which has over 50 million websites in their platform that they're continually monitoring traffic and monitoring conversion rates. And you can see the various industries split here across the graph. Some key winners in terms of overall traffic into websites: finance, food, healthcare, and media more broadly, seeing significant jumps in traffic. The rest of the industries, you can see, seeing declines in overall traffic. And then when we look at conversion rates, this is people actively converting to a sale or converting to revenue. There's some real winners, obviously food, healthcare, media, and pharma. No surprises there. But conversion rates are dropping across the board. What this does mean is that people are becoming more conscious of where their fixed costs are, and marketing is one of that, is one of those areas where you as a business need to be conscious around where you're spending, be a lot more targeted and a lot more aware of how you're maximizing the value from that spending. But ultimately what that does mean is demand in advertising services has gone down. So people are spending less but being more conscious about where they're spending. And what this means, and what this graph shows here, is this is the average cost per 1,000 impressions in Facebook and Instagram advertising, as an example, over the last kind of 12 months. But you can see kind of the March to April data points on the far right, and you can see obviously trending declines, but significant declines in cost per 1,000 impressions. And ultimately, because there's people are becoming more conscious around where they're spending money, there's less spend going into the platforms, which means the platforms, Google, Facebook, Instagram, anywhere where you choose to advertise, are making it significantly cheaper to advertise from a cost per 1,000 views perspective. So the dark blue line here is, the green line here is the UK line, and the UK cost per 1,000, the average cost per 1,000 impressions in Facebook is £2.80 currently. So you're looking at paying Facebook, Instagram, Facebook Messenger, WhatsApp, all part of the same ecosystem. If you want to advertise to consumers in those platforms, you are looking on average to pay £2.80 to reach 1,000 people. So if you really have the right targeting in place and you know who you want to get in front of, and you tell the platforms the exact consumer that you need to put your message in front of, is relatively cost effective to run advertising and promote content to get your message in front of the right people. And if you know this and can utilize these platforms, you can significantly maximize the value that you get and the returns that you get from marketing costs and marketing advertising, because the cost to actually advertise is dropping now significantly, and ultimately the back end of this climate, that will probably start to level off and potentially increase again as people double down and increase their investments. So now more than ever is a good opportunity to get your message in front of targeted consumers. And this is data from Common Thread Collective. They passed around 20. They audited around $20 million worth of revenue across e-commerce sites to understand the fluctuations. And this graph shows a week-by-week split from the 1st of March all the way through to the 6th of April, which is the last data set that they had access to. And it shows a positive story from an e-commerce perspective. So revenue has increased by 60% month on month in this current period versus the previous period. So people are actively consuming and buying online and through online services. So if you are a business, if you're a startup or an established business that sells direct to consumer in any way, has an e-commerce platform, then it's a very positive story, and there's significantly more eyeballs online. And if you can get your tactics right, and really consider how you can convert them, the wider story is that there's a lot of online spend going through those platforms at the moment. And because people are being more conscious and aware of where they're spending their budgets, being conscious around maximizing your investments, the return on advertising spend, so this graph shows ROAS, return on advertising spend, is also increasing across the board. So you can see a really positive trend line there with businesses really being able to eke out the value that they get from marketing investments. So the headlines from all of that is that kind of media consumption is changing, and people are consuming more content online and ultimately spending more time online and ultimately buying online. And that same report from Marketing Week showed that 88% of marketers predict an increase in on use of online services more generally. And this could be either e-commerce or any kind of, I suppose, broader online services, digital products, e-learning products like we sat on today. 86% see a rise in social media activity, of course, and I've got a section coming up on how to capitalize on that. And then 79% predict an increase in e-commerce usage. So as I mentioned, if you sell direct to consumer, then now more than ever is an opportunity to accelerate. And the Common Thread Collective actually broke down the winners, or the key winners in the e-commerce space, and some of the key product sets. So you can see obviously baby products there as number one, essential medical products number two, and then you can see probably no surprises as we go down the list: household goods, food, working from home goods, health and wellness, toys and games, pets, household goods, beauty, electronics, outdoor, all showing positive increases in sales kind of during the pandemic period versus the previous period. There are some losers there as we go down the right hand side that are negative declines, so jewelry, luxury, kind of high level kind of fashion, apparel, automotive, and travel accessories. So these industries obviously now or never need to put a lot more thought into the different channels that we're using to communicate with potential customers, because the various conversations that I'm having with our kind of hospitality and travel clients are that actually we're looking to really implement a nurture strategy, make sure that we're retaining the current client base, effectively flatline through this period so that we're in the best position as we can to accelerate once obviously we come out of isolation and the economy starts to flatten out and return to whatever the new normal is from that perspective. So broadly speaking, to round off that section and trying to kind of pull all those data points into a clear view, just going down the bullet points here, excuse me. Just going down the bullet points here. Consumer confidence in products and consumer confidence more broadly in the economy has plummeted and has decreased. There's a lot of nervousness in the market, of course, around spending, and as we as individuals potentially have nervousness in our roles and our jobs and what the future looks like. There is obviously a decrease in spending. As a result, conversion rates online have declined. Therefore, the money that is being invested in platforms has driven less value for brands. Ultimately, that means businesses are spending less in platforms, which makes it cheaper for you to advertise, and therefore highlights an opportunity and presents an opportunity to run more cost-effective advertising and start to kind of put your messaging in front of key consumers in a much more cost-effective way. So really does present an opportunity for some, but ultimately it's industry by industry. And I know there might be some people on the call that on the webinar or watching the recording that are in industries that are more affected, like hospitality, who ultimately are unable to drive the same level of business and sales as they did previously. So actually, when we start to consider that, there are some other considerations around how you kind of put nurture marketing in place and retain your current customer base within those. And I'm going to talk to that in the key consideration section. So what were some of the key considerations following kind of the landscape overview? Well, selling direct to consumer is obviously a big opportunity at the moment. If you do offer a product where you sell direct to consumer, B2C, and have an e-commerce platform, then ultimately what you're looking at is your conversion metrics. Have your conversion metrics improved, stayed static, or declined, and what can you do to move the needle with those conversion metrics? And there's a lot you can do, tools that I'm going to talk about in terms of understanding how you can better improve your conversion metrics, because ultimately the traffic is there. People are consuming content online. You can use advertising channels to drive traffic into your website through the tactics I'm about to talk through. But the big consideration is how many of those people are converting, and what can you do to improve your conversion metrics. If you don't sell direct to consumer, then and you're B2B or you have a physical product or a physical experience you sell, then there's a question around whether you can offer digital products. So is there a way of creating a digital experience either through e-learning, like we're on today, webinar, knowledge-based kind of educational content that you can package and sell as a product, or whether there's kind of services that you can offer and distribute digitally. So we've seen kind of local pubs turning into online shops where people can buy groceries and buy products and get them delivered to local communities. Is there a way of digitizing your processes? If 1 and 2 aren't feasible, then ultimately there's a process of working much smarter to retain your existing customer client base. So making sure that you've got your nurture marketing in place, making sure that you've got your email marketing, and then if you're getting a little bit more advanced, your marketing automation processes, which is the process of automatically kind of drip feeding content to your email marketing database over a period of time, to make sure that you do stay front of mind, to make sure that you are able to accelerate when the time comes by still maintaining the relationships that you have with your existing customer base. And then ultimately platforms like social media, for instance, and using tools like social media advertising in the Facebook, Instagram, even kind of Snapchat world, which is Pinterest world, which have even cheaper advertising models than Facebook and Instagram. All of those present an opportunity to be visible in front of your target market. So the main consideration is what message you put in front of them to maintain that visibility. So when we're talking about messaging and thinking about kind of communications, there's a few things to think about based on the data that we spoke about in the earlier section of this presentation. Ultimately, consumers are looking for people and businesses more broadly to show empathy in the current situation and really do things that are helping to solve problems, whether that's actually getting hold of products and making sure that you're able to deliver and ship products in the right way in whatever time frame, whether that's turning knowledge and services into digital products. You've got the kind of personal trainers, the Joe Wicks of this world, the running channels of this world, YouTube channel that offer kind of exercise and fitness education when you can't get out. You've got e-learning and educational platforms, a whole series of content through webinar type products being released to help people accelerate and maintain their day-to-day. So really showing empathy in what you can do to help people solve their problems and the issues that they're facing, pandemic related issues that they're facing. Being honest, so the third bullet point there, now more than ever, people expect kind of clear and transparent communications. People are aware that services are going to have some limitations. So if you do feel, and you are shipping products to customers, and you do feel that delivery times are being affected or any other areas of your service are being affected, then communicating that up front through email, through content, through social, through your website is vitally important to maintain those relationships. And then also not to forget that you need to keep your digital assets up to date. So that's not only things like your website, so obviously changing opening hours, changing ability to access customer service teams, maybe slower responses to emails if you work in B2B, so updating your assets, but also things like Google listings, which often get forgotten. So if you have a physical presence, bricks and mortar store, or any kind of physical presence where you've got a Google My Business listing, which has opening hours, which has service information, which has contact details. People are actively Googling businesses still and looking for information. Therefore, there are areas like Google listings that can sometimes fall between the cracks in the current situation. But now more than ever, it's important that those are up to date with the correct information based on the services that you can offer to your customers. So in terms of getting cut through, that's kind of key considerations around messaging. And there are some other considerations around channels and the channels that you select. And as I previously mentioned in the stats, social media at the moment has seen, in the last 2 weeks alone, Facebook has seen a 500% or just shy of 500% increase in consumption, in people logging in and consuming and interacting with content. And this is the breakdown of the monthly active users in the UK. So 32 million active users in Facebook, so logging on once a month, but we know people log on more than once a month into these platforms. 25 million in Instagram, 16 million in LinkedIn, 13 million in Twitter. So if I'm prioritizing communications and prioritizing my channel marketing, I'm, as Grandad say everywhere, I'm fishing where the fish are biting. I am going to the channels that offer me the greatest reach for the most cost-effective advertising spend, which is kind of the Facebooks and the Instagrams of this world. And really understanding now and taking the time to understand how those platforms actually work, and how you can utilize advertising models to get your message in front of them. And depending on your target demographics, there are some other channels to consider. Snapchat has 15 million monthly active users in the UK. Facebook Messenger's up just shy of Instagram, and WhatsApp, the behemoth, up at 40+ million active users in the UK. All of these potential communication channels within for you to actively promote and advertise on. Even WhatsApp, for instance, and Facebook Messenger are part of the Facebook advertising ecosystem. So when you set up a Facebook ad, you get the opportunity to send people, click people through to Facebook Messenger or WhatsApp to have a chat with you. So if you're promoting a particular product and your call to action is for them to get in touch with you, then you have the ability to very quickly and cost effectively run an ad that gets them to click on a piece of content which opens up WhatsApp and gets them to have a conversation with you through WhatsApp. A much kind of more frictionless form of communication, which you might not have explored previously, but given the current climate, consumers are now more open to digital communications and open to exploring these channels. And actually now more than ever is the time to understand how the platforms work, and we've only got a short period, so I could probably just spend a couple of hours talking about how the algorithms in Facebook work. But ultimately, if you put Facebook algorithm into Google, there will be hundreds and if not thousands of articles that explain that, so I won't regurgitate that. But effectively, the way Facebook works is it's all about the volume of interactions you get on the post, not how many fans you have or followers you have on a page. The Facebook has an algorithm that ultimately reduces, if not stops, people from seeing your content even when they follow you. If you have a Facebook page and you have fans or followers, a maximum, on average, 1.5% of your fans of your Facebook page will actually see your content when you post it, because it's an algorithm that controls the relevancy of your content and who Facebook thinks your content is more relevant to, even if they follow you. So if you have a Facebook page with 10,000 Facebook fans, every time you post on that Facebook page, it will reach a maximum of 150 people. If you have a Facebook page with 1 million fans, every time you post, it will reach a maximum of 15,000 people. However, Facebook has a peer-to-peer algorithm, which is basically you and your friends and how you and your friends interact on the platform. And every time you post as an individual, it goes up to 33% of your personal network. So up to a third of your personal friends and family will see the posts that you've interacted with. You've probably logged onto Facebook and seen it says Dan Spicer likes this post or Dan Spicer comments on this post. Well, that's the algorithm putting my interactions into a third of my friends' feeds. Ultimately, the average person has 338 Facebook friends. So when you post, or when I post on Facebook, it goes to about a third of that. So 110, 115 people effectively will see my comment on a post, a business post. So actually, by getting 135 people to like, comment, or share your Facebook post, you reach more people than having 1 million Facebook fans. If you bring the numbers down, if you get 13.5 people, 14 people to like, comment, or share a post, you reach more people than having 100,000 Facebook fans. So the strategy in social media is less about how many fans and followers can I get, because ultimately that doesn't actually mean anything. You can't reach them even if they do follow you. The strategy should be, how can I get people to interact, consume, engage with my content, because the algorithm then shares that with more people because it thinks it's more relevant. So then your strategy should flip on its head. In this case, now I'm thinking about how I get people to engage. What are the types of things I can talk about? What are the types of things I can share? How can I be empathetic and compassionate to people's current daily lives and actually share content that is valuable and relevant and helps? And then the algorithms do their job of sharing that to the wider networks, because it is relevant and it is high quality within those. So you should worry less about getting fans and followers, more around who's trusting you and who's engaging with your content. And ultimately, on the organic side, that's the same for all of the social networks, or the majority of the one. LinkedIn has an algorithm in the same way, slightly different figures, but 28 people interacting with a LinkedIn post reaches more people than having 100,000 Facebook fans, LinkedIn followers. So it's the same in the B2B world. And ultimately, why the platforms do this is because people trust their friends, their family, their acquaintances more than they trust brands and businesses and trust what they're saying. So if you can get that right, and you can get people engaging with content, you'll get significantly more reach, significantly more engagement by proxy because of that reach. and ultimately more potential to sell to those people that are interacting with those, because that content is being shared by friends and family, not by you as a business. So when you're thinking about channels and thinking about channel marketing and how you get cut through and where to put your investment and your marketing investment in current times, a good way to think about it is your current kind of your current funnel, as it were. So this is a traditional funnel, linear kind of marketing 101. So the actual funnel is probably not going to be linear, but awareness, consideration, preference, purchase, loyalty, advocacy is the typical journey that any customer, B2C or B2B, will go through. As an example, I was actually just speaking to a client yesterday saying he was getting frustrated with the amount of his friends who are getting puppies and putting photos on Instagram of their puppies, because more people are spending time at home, so why not get a puppy? And it got me thinking around pet food brands, and we work with a pet food brand and the process that they go through. But if you think about, say as an example, you get a puppy and you go through this process. Awareness: I've just got a puppy, I need to feed it. Consideration: what food should I give it? Do I need puppy food? Do I need normal food? Are there particular types of pet food? Preference: I've heard of pure pet food, I've also heard of butternut box. Which one is better? Purchase: I've just bought pure pet food. Loyalty: I love pure pet food. Advocacy: you should buy pure pet food. Every single person goes through some kind of journey like that, a thought process, a buying process when they're looking to buy a product, whether that's themselves thinking about that process, or whether they're actively asking for recommendations online, on pet food forums, on Facebook for the best type of pet food. All of these conversations are happening. And you can loosely split that by top, middle and bottom of funnel. So awareness, consideration, I'm thinking about buying pet food, what should I get, is all top of funnel marketing. So top of funnel targeting. They don't know what to buy yet. They haven't really considered any products and don't know about brands. Middle: I'm looking, that's where middle of funnel marketing is you now got an idea of brands and you're starting to consider and weigh up different options. Bottom is obviously bottom of funnel remarketing and retargeting, where a person's already bought a product from you and you're looking to drive repeat purchase or incentivize sharing, refer a friend type activity to kind of grow that base. So if you're thinking about your marketing, whatever product you're selling, if you're a startup or if you're an established business, you should be going through the exercise of understanding the buying process and the types of questions that people ask, top, middle and bottom of funnel. And depending on those types of questions and what stage of the business you're at, there are particular channels that are suited to driving and targeting people at that stage. So if I take a pet food example, if I'm still considering pet foods, but I don't know what brands, I don't know where to start doing the research, and social advertising, for instance, gives you the opportunity to target people based on their interests or based on thousands of different kind of demographic and psychographic attributes. So I can actually give Facebook and Instagram £5 and say, put my content in front of anyone who's interested in puppies, as an example. So they're not aware of brands yet, but you've got an opportunity to put your content in front of people who are actively interested about the type of products or services that you offer. Middle of funnel is more intent driven. So this is where people are now actively considering a particular brand or a particular product. So actually, if you think about their buying behaviors, they're more likely to go to a platform like Google, which is more intent driven, and type in your query. So this is where you can advertise in Google, set up PPC campaigns for people searching for best pet food for puppies, for instance, or whichever kind of related search strings that relate to your products or services. So much more intent driven. So actually, if you're looking to capture that part of the market, then I would be looking at focusing my advertising spend on Google PPC. If you're a business where you already have good customers and you have the opportunity to drive repeat purchase, so pet food is probably a good example, you've already got people who are buying pet food from you, then actually you might want to accelerate your opportunity to drive repeat purchases. And this is where remarketing comes into play. So obviously email marketing, but both across social advertising and Google PPC, you can run remarketing campaigns. So Facebook, Instagram, Facebook Messenger, all offer you the ability to upload your customer email addresses or customer mobile numbers into the platform. It will match those with anyone that has an active Facebook or Instagram profile, and it will say, of your customers, this is how many have an Instagram profile. Do you want to put some content in front of them? And then you have the ability to say in that content, thank you for buying our products. Here's and then incentivize them to repeat purchase, either through the communication style or through an offer, 5% off your next purchase, those type of messaging. And actually in the current climate, it may be, if you already have a customer database and you already have customer data to work from, then remarketing may be the better option in terms of accelerating repeat purchases and driving up upsell, cross-sell, or driving up the lifetime value of your current customers. So some of the advertising options, obviously I loosely spoke about targeting by interests. So people interested in puppies, people interested in dogs. If you sell mobile phone accessories or you sell mobile phone insurance, you can target people who own an iPhone, who own an Android phone. There's lots of different data points. You can target by income level, household income level. You can target by psychographic data, so people who are interested in particular communities. So we have a YouTube running channel with one of our clients, and we target people who are interested in other running communities online, like Park Run, like the Adidas Runtastic community. So you can really get niche and granular about who you put your content in front of. But on the screen here are just some of the different types of data points you can utilize in a Facebook and Instagram world. The bottom row here, email address, mobile numbers, are obviously based on uploading your current customer data. So if you have some, that's available. If you don't, then you won't be able to use that. But also website views. So you can target anyone that's interacted with a particular part of your website. So you can say, if anyone's looked at our pricing page on our website, tell me if they have an Instagram profile. If they do, put this piece of content, this message in front of them in Instagram, because I know they've looked at our pricing page, so they're showing some kind of intent to buy our product. Or if you're more of a content driven organization, you might say anyone that's read this blog post around this particular product, around this particular topic, show them this product, this e-learning product, this webinar that I've created around that topic. So you can be much more efficient around where you put your advertising spend and make sure for the £2.80 that you spend for those 1,000 views in Facebook and Instagram, you hit 1,000 people that show some kind of intent, and therefore you have a much better chance of driving up click-through rates and conversion rates. LinkedIn, if you work in B2B, offers similar advertising techniques. Obviously LinkedIn is much more of a B2B professional marketing platform, but the way you would advertise is exactly the same. You can set up campaigns and you can target against any of these. This is just some of the kind of targeting options, not all of them, by company name, by job title, by industry. And similarly, you can upload email addresses. So if you have previous clients that you've worked with from a B2B perspective, or B2B customers that haven't purchased recently, you can upload email addresses into LinkedIn, match their profiles, show them some messaging, show them some content, show them an offer potentially. And then from a Google PPC perspective, if we're thinking middle of funnel, so as I mentioned, targeting people who are now actively searching in Google for products or services, then actually there's some thinking around what you want to bid against, what type of keywords you want to bid against. And loosely, there's two ways you can do that, brand and non-brand. So if you've generated kind of top of funnel traffic, so if you're running social advertising, for instance, in Facebook and Instagram, and you have grown awareness of your brand and started putting your brand in front of people, but they don't know who you are, they're likely to go to Google and Google you. If your website doesn't come up number one in Google, then you've potentially lost some, or even on the first page of Google, then you've potentially lost, first of all, the investment that you put into marketing and the investment that you put into Facebook and Instagram, but you've also potentially lost a customer. So actually this is where, if you're Googling your brand name or business name and you're not appearing in the top there, then ultimately you need to be investing in Google PPC, because if they're typing your brand name in, there's a high intent there to engage with you, to engage with your business, to potentially buy your products. So this is where you use Google PPC to set up an ad to make sure that you appear top and number one for your brand name. And then you have a whole bunch of opportunities from a non-branded perspective. So for instance, in the context of Ventura Digital and our services, we would then might bid on digital marketing services in Essex as a keyword. So anyone typing that into Google might see us. But depending on your business, you might want to bid on other non-brands. So pet food, best food for puppies, best food for Dalmatian puppies, for instance. If you're selling mobile phone insurance, different compared mobile phone insurance providers. For instance, if you're selling homeware, for instance, you're going to want to bid on ceramic office light shades, whatever, ceramic light shades for offices, kind of non-branded keywords that show really good intent that you can surface your brand in front of. And then if we talk about remarketing and remarketing options, you've then got a whole host of opportunities to remarket based on your previous website behavior. So actually, if you want to get really targeted with your marketing investment, you might just focus on a remarketing strategy where you actually say anyone that visits our website clearly shows intent to engage with us, to consume our content, and potentially shows higher value and higher opportunity to convert them to a sale. So you've got the opportunity across any of these platforms, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Google, to set up campaigns that says anyone that visits our website that views these different types of content on our website, show them some content in Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Google that aligns with the content that they've looked at. Put an offer in front of them, put a key message in front of them that's going to get them to consume, engage, and ultimately convert. And some of you may not have a website set up or in order. You certainly potentially are considering not investing in new websites in this time, if that's a fixed cost that you've been looking at, and you may not feel that your website is fit for purpose for driving people into and converting, either from a converting from a kind of lead generation, email subscription perspective, or converting into sales. There are tools out there that are cost effective and allow you to do this relatively quickly, and Unbounce is one of the best tools that we've used for that. Unbounce.com, or put Unbounce in Google. There is a cost associated with it. There is a free trial. I believe it's a 2-week free trial, so you can just go ahead and try it. And this is a landing page tool, drag and drop design, very easy to use, and you can set up landing pages that are automatically optimized to convert, that have forms in, that push through an e-commerce funnel. I believe it starts at $99 per month. You're not locked in for a long period, so you can try it for a month or two, and gives you the best opportunity to drive traffic into that landing page from advertising, from Google PPC, from remarketing, and convert that traffic either through direct sales or through capturing email address data or contact data, depending on your business and your industry. And then ultimately, now more than ever, is a time to really understand your analytics, understand what people are doing, how people are interacting with your website, with your digital assets, and start to form an opinion on what's working and what isn't working, so you can optimize your marketing spend based on what's working and what isn't working. Google Analytics is the #1 tool for doing that on your website. If you don't have that, you need to get that this afternoon, tomorrow. It's a free tool that you can put onto your website that will tell you everything you need to know about where your traffic's coming from, what pages they're visiting, where they're converting, how they're converting, and allows you to be a bit more purposeful around the tests that you run. So if you're running ads, the best way to think about it is I always split my budget into two. So if I'm looking to spend £100 on Facebook ads, I will create 2 different ads. £50 on one, £50 on the other. That tests 2 different forms of messaging, one with an offer, one with a different offer, one with a slightly different, one with a certain approach to your messaging and comms, one with a completely different approach. Split test that and drive that traffic, and then have a look at how click-through rates are being affected. If people are clicking on one more than the other. All of that insight is so valuable and so powerful for helping you optimize other areas of your marketing. So every Facebook ad, every split, if you can see one message or one headline is working better than the other, then I'm using that headline in emails, I'm using it on my website, I'm using it in other comms, because I know it increases potential click-through rate. And ultimately, whatever you do, Google Analytics gives you that view. So you can see this is one of our clients here on the left-hand side. We can see exactly how much traffic is being driven by Google SEO, Google PPC, social media. When you click on social media, it breaks down all the channels, Facebook, YouTube, Pinterest. So I can see actually Facebook is the #1 driver of traffic to my website. But actually, when I look at the data, YouTube is actually the highest converting. It converts at 2% versus Facebook converting at 0.73%. So now ultimately I'm going to put more of my investment into YouTube, because even though Facebook is driving more, I can see YouTube is driving double the volume of sales. So actually £100, £1,000 investment is going to drive double the volume of sales from YouTube than it would do from Facebook. And I'm getting all of this insight from Google Analytics, which is free. So ultimately, you need to become much more aware of all of this data, be running those tests, and using that insight to optimize all of your marketing, all of your comms, whether that's your website pages, your product pages, your messaging. There's lots of different tests that you can run across all of those platforms. So that's channel marketing, and ultimately, kind of the key takeaways from that perspective is one, understanding your funnel, understanding the process right now that consumers are going through. What are the types of things they're thinking about when they're looking to buy your products or services? And if they're not currently looking to buy your products and services, how can you target them at different stages of the funnel? So if they're not looking to buy your products and services, that's very much top of funnel targeting. And that's very much how can I capitalize on the targeting options that Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, Google PPC offer me, so I can get in front of the right person within those. Then once you understand that funnel, it's doing the research and either, if you're going to manage this yourself, putting the time in to learn how these platforms work, or investing in partners to deliver this for you. And the right partners will have a really good, strong focus on performance. And ultimately, any investment in marketing partners should be driven by performance and should be driven by a view on acquiring new customers or generating sales, and what that looks like in the current climate. And then being really focused on the data. So taking the time as business owners, like you all are, to understand exactly how people are interacting with your website. You should know Google data like the back of your hand. You should know how people interact with your site. What are the key bits of content that they interact with? What are their behaviors through the site? And you can use all of this insight to fuel your broader decision making for your business. And then finally, last section, and conscious of time, running a little bit over within those, but outside of channel marketing, there's also a consideration for adapting to kind of new ways of working and remote working. Marketing Week actually ran a survey last week to 900 marketers around remote working, and found out that 38% of marketers have never run remote working teams, but 83% of marketers actually feel now, obviously, it's going to become the new normal, even when we come out of the pandemic situation. So there are certainly new ways of working that we need to consider, including obviously the technology and the tools and the processes. If you have a team in place, if you're an established business with a team in place. Within that Marketing Week survey, it found that 92% of marketers actually said that remote working isn't suited to everyone. And actually, if you go to the far right, 68% say it impacts creative collaboration. So there's a risk there. certainly a risk and certainly a consideration for making sure we've got the right tools and processes in place for our teams. Not only do we need to adapt to new ways of working and potentially sustain them, because it is an opportunity moving forward to potentially reduce overheads like office space if remote working works for you as a business. There are some fixed cost savings outside of this period that remote working can deliver. But importantly, there is certainly a thought process around motivating your employees. How do you protect and retain those employees and make sure they're comfortable in a remote working environment? And I've got some tools that I'm coming up that I'm going to talk to you about. Be aware and consider your security risks. So this is a separate conversation, but there are a number of cybersecurity risks with remote working. There are lots of new tools and platforms being downloaded. There are phishing emails that are being sent that pretend to be remote working tools. More than ever, your cybersecurity tools on all of your employees' laptops and machines are important, and they are working with and sharing data, customer data, company data. So there is a thought process around making sure you've got a cybersecurity head on and make sure you have all of those tools in place. And more importantly, continue to listen, continue to learn, and respond to consumers and how they're behaving with you, behaving in the current climate. So in terms of the tech stack, final couple of slides. There's kind of two key winners. You've probably seen them all over the news at the moment. When we talk about remote working technology, normally Zoom, as per what we're on at the moment, and Slack as a communication tool, normally drive those conversations. And actually, those two are very powerful and valuable and relatively cost-effective tools, and two that you should be considering to help remote working. However, there's a whole that's just the tip of the iceberg. There's a whole number of tools and technologies that you need to consider below that. So email marketing, internal emails. More than ever, you're getting more and more emails from your team and from clients. So actually having tools, if not just the Outlook tools, maybe more advanced tools like EM Client or Mailbird, allows you to snooze emails, kind of bounce them back into your inbox at a time that's ready for you, allows you to keep on top of your inbox a bit better. Social media management tools like Hootsuite, Buffer and Sprout Social all do the same thing, just look slightly different. So it's more of a personal preference, but allow you to put all of your social networks into one place. Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, Pinterest, all into one dashboard. And you can schedule content at the same time and push it out to all of them without having to log in every single time to each one. And it allows you to have multiple team members in one dashboard so you can manage multiple people. That's key as a tech stack. Project management tools like Asana, Trello, Airtable, again, all do the same thing. It's about researching, picking one that you feel comfortable with, but that's kind of workflow management. So assigning tasks to teams and making sure that you can stay on top of what tasks have been completed and what haven't. Marketing automation, this is more on the consumer marketing rather than the internal marketing. So tools like MailChimp you may have heard of. If you get a little bit more advanced, stuff like Drip and HubSpot have marketing tools that allow you to automate and trigger emails out to customers. As an example, if a customer has opened this email, send them this email. If they haven't, send them this reminder email. If they bought a product, send them an email 4 weeks later automatically to remind them that they can rebuy. I'm thinking pet food. Lots of advanced things you can do from an email marketing perspective with those tools. And then on the inside, some miscellaneous tools, things like LastPass for you to research, which allow you to kind of keep all your passwords secure if you're sharing them remotely across team members. And also tools like Office Vibe, a kind of employee advocacy survey-based tool, which allows you to communicate with employees, run surveys, run health checks, digital health checks, with how they're finding remote working, any issues or challenges. It automatically triggers those out every couple of weeks or every month, and a good way of getting feedback from remote workers in terms of how they're finding the structure. So there's a lot within there. This is a starting point, hopefully, which allows you to, once you screenshot this or write these down or watch the webinar, do some research yourself. But there are lots of tools. The majority of these actually are free. Lots of tools that allow you to kind of manage remote working. And ultimately, last slide to end bang on 11 o'clock. Innovation is obviously needed more than ever in a recession. So thinking about how you can build new products, build digital products, offer new services, innovate your service lines to kind of help drive your business forward is needed more than ever. That thinking around your product set is needed more than ever. A couple of examples: Dyson, who have no medical expertise at all, have developed a brand new ventilator, which the NHS and global and companies around the world have started buying. And obviously a ventilator is a really complex and highly specialized piece of equipment which they built from scratch in 3 weeks, and has allowed them to really innovate and again build kind of brand resonance and advocacy for that brand through kind of helping through this current climate. Brewdog, you've seen lots of brands doing this, but has transformed their main distillery to create hand sanitizer and is giving it away free to care homes and other organisations and businesses that need hand sanitizer. Barber, on the right hand side, top right, you may have seen this social media content that they changed their factories to start building PPE, specifically gowns, and have been shipping those gowns to hospitals and care homes. More on the consumer side, the bottom row, Signature Brew was a pub which is now actually paying out of work musicians to hand deliver its kind of pub in a box product that it's developed, which has glassware and snacks and music quizzes, playlists, and even online invites to online events. Top QV, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, is a London-based restaurant, a neighbourhood restaurant, which they've now, or restaurant and a bottle shop, which they've now changed to Shop QV online, which delivers food and drinks and toiletries to local customers. And Charged Up, so Charged Up is obviously, I don't know if you've heard of it, it's one of Europe's specialist phone charging stations. They've created a new product called Cleaned Up, which they're shipping around to any venues that are still open, which provides hand sanitizing facilities within those products. And actually, if you start to Google this, there's lots and lots of other examples around brands who have innovated and produced new product lines to back to our original point around helping create solutions to people's issues and challenges in today's world. And now more than ever, that innovation is required. So to summarise all of that, thank you for sticking with me, which is slightly over. Number one, understand your funnel and where you can kind of most effectively promote your messaging and cost effectively promote your messaging. Multi-channel marketing is critical. So actually, if you can look at top, middle, bottom, social advertising, Google PPC, remarketing, and really get a holistic view on that, you'll really be able to, you can start to see how you can accelerate driving people down the funnel. Social and news media are one of the most important channels to keep an eye on and analyze, and these channels do offer much more cost-effective advertising models in the current climate. And just wanted to end off with that. We've covered a lot today. I'm running slightly over, but I'm happy to have a one-to-one conversation and chat with anyone. My contact details will be sent around afterwards. So if you've got any kind of follow-up questions, feel free to reach out. Happy to jump on a video call with you. Great, thanks for your time.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Dan. We've got some questions that have come through. I think one of the things, if I could just pick up on something you said before we jump to the questions, which is something I know I've experienced people telling me for problems they've had, was that sometimes you mentioned about the cost to advertise per 1,000 people on Facebook ads, and the entry point is actually very good. So when you consider the price versus the reach, that's great. I know that some businesses have burned through a lot of money by maybe doing the wrong things on Facebook ads when it comes to actually sort of running them and actually looking at their target markets. So it's more of a point of caution that sometimes we can get blinded by the big numbers. So if you think, well, suddenly for £100 I could reach nearly 40,000 people, it's still making sure that your setup is done to maximize that efficiency in terms of conversion and everything. Because I've spoken to businesses before that have gone through £500,000 worth of their marketing budget and have no results. So it's really just to pick up on something you said and sort of add with caution that yes, those opportunities are there, but it comes back what you said, which is work with a suitable partner who can demonstrate that value for your business and get you that sort of return on advertising spend more than anything else.
Yeah, and really understand the metrics that you're targeting and what you're looking to achieve. So obviously reach, as you mentioned, it gives you the numbers. So yes, £2.80 gives you, lets you get in front of 1,000 people. But what are the metrics are you looking to drive? The next one is click-through rate. So obviously you want to drive people, you want people clicking on your ads. So you need to understand, okay, what's going to influence the click-through rate? And on average, that's kind of between 1% and 3%. So actually, if you think about it, £2.80 gives you 1,000 views. If you've got a click-through rate of 1%, effectively that's going to give you 10 clicks within that. So 1,000 views gives you 10 clicks. So then if you're driving 10 people into your website, you've now got to look at your conversion rate. Now, if your conversion rate on a product is 50%, which it won't be, then that's fantastic because 10 clicks is going to give you 5 sales. But more likely it's going to be less than 10%, maybe something along the lines of 1% on your website. So actually 10% conversion rate is going to give you 1 sale. 1% is not going to give you any sales until you've invested at least £28 and so on and so forth. So I suppose my key piece there and key piece of advice there is understand all of your metrics, understand kind of those key levers at each stage to drive a sale, because once you know those numbers, forecasting becomes a lot easier. You then know actually with £1,000 investment, I should be delivering Y based on the current metrics. If not, there's been an issue somewhere along those levers. And if you can identify that, you'll be in a much better position to fix it before you start investing kind of more and more and more and losing out on those investments.
I'm just conscious of time because I'm aware you have to go to another meeting shortly. I think we've got some questions, but I think what I'd probably encourage everyone to do, send them in, is to actually follow up with Dan after this and sort of just have a chance to catch them quickly. But I think probably the most pertinent one that we've got is from Kathy, which is talking about what happens when we come out of lockdown and consumer behaviour. Will people sort of, in her own words, so I think sums up quite nicely, is make a mad rush for the things they've missed, such as travel? Or will other factors come into effect, such as the airline? So should people continue to current marketing, will they have to continue their current marketing activities for the months to come, or adapt and respond once lockdown sort of is lifted?
I think it's very difficult to forecast and profess how it's going, how the economy and how consumer behaviour is going to change once we come out of lockdown. From a kind of personal opinion perspective, and what I've been seeing in the data, is that fundamentally things aren't going to return to the normal, the kind of pre-pandemic normal. There's going to be lots of new behaviours that people are used to, both online behaviours and shopping behaviours that will fundamentally change how people interact. And I think online consumption will still be at a high, and people will be expecting more digital services. There are other industries, as you mentioned, like travel and hospitality that will see, I suppose, a much quicker return to revenue generating activities. However, there will still be, in my opinion, a level of nervousness around kind of using travel, and especially large crowds. And I think that the communication has been that until we have a vaccine, that people, as they release people back into society, as it were, people are still going to get this potential virus, and therefore thinking about it in that context, I would assume that actually large-scale global travel, international travel, even national travel will still see a slower return to normality, as there's still a nervousness in the public around large crowds and getting this virus and transmitting and sharing this virus within that. So I suppose the overarching view on marketing is everything that we're doing now to become more data driven, to become more effective in understanding where we can put our marketing investments and budgets, will need to continue on for months, potentially years to come, depending on the industries. But that's not wasted effort, because all of this good learnings and insights that we're driving now is the methodology that we should be using moving forward. Being data driven and understanding your metrics will only help your business moving forward, whether we're in pandemic or out of pandemic. So actually we do have more time on our hands, unfortunately, now to learn this and to educate ourselves. So I only see that as a positive for when we come out of this pandemic. Very much the methodologies that we learn will need to be continually implemented when we come out of this, whenever that might be.
Okay, I think that's a good point to wrap up this morning's presentation on. For the questions we haven't answered, again, sort of please make the most of Dan's offer to get in touch with him, whether or not that's through LinkedIn or via email. What we'll be doing is we'll be sharing the recording of this webinar with you, but we'll be sending out an email hopefully later today or tomorrow, at least with Dan's contact details on, and a link to his LinkedIn profile, so you can follow up with him there. I'd just like to say thank you very much for joining us this morning. I hope you found it useful. I've seen a lot of opportunities that businesses can take away from Dan's presentation, and how they can implement that into their businesses to hopefully create that buffer and that resilience during this time. The University of Essex is also running some additional webinars on some upcoming subjects. We've got one on leadership, and we also have a variety of webinars on virtual reality coming up. So please visit the Eventbrite page and sign up for anything that you think would be of interest to you right now. It's also, as Dan said, it's a great opportunity to learn. So, you know, taking part in those webinars, hearing what other people are talking about in their particular industry, and looking at ways to apply that to your own would be a great opportunity during this time. So I'd just like to finish by saying once again, thanks very much to Dan for his time this morning. Thank you for joining us. Look after yourselves, stay safe, and we look forward to seeing you on future webinars. Thank you, everyone.